Hi students, I am Reshma Bulani here and I am specialized in maths and science and I have teaching experience for more than 15 years. Now today I will be taking the chapter Chemical Reaction and Equations for CBSE 10th. Before I start with the chapter, let's see what we will be covering in this chapter. We will be covering chemical equation, how to write a chemical equation, how to balance a chemical equation, different types of chemical reactions like combination reaction, decomposition reaction, displacement, double displacement, oxidation, and so on. We will also be covering effects of oxidation reactions in everyday life like corrosion and rancidity. Okay, now you know that matter undergoes certain changes as a result of application of energy. For example, glaciers melt in summer, rivers freeze in winter. Water from the sea also evaporates to form water vapor, and when it turns into water vapor it forms cloud, and when it condenses it forms rain. So we can see we come across variety of changes. These changes are divided as physical changes and chemical changes. Now what is meant by physical change? Physical change is a temporary change which involves the change in the physical property of the substance like state, color, shape and size. I will give you an example. For example, if I take ice and keep it outside the freezing temperature, it turns into water. Again, I take water, I put in the refrigerator, it turns into ice. So it's a physical change that water can be converted into ice and ice again can be converted into water. But the other type of change that is called as chemical change is a permanent change, whereas the original substance and the original substance gives rise to a new substance, and the new substance have different properties and different composition. For example, if I take hydrogen and oxygen, if I combine hydrogen and oxygen, it turns into water. I cannot get the same property of hydrogen and oxygen which is there in water. Now we will discuss this chemical change with the help of certain experiments. Let's see. First is, I will discuss the experiment to show how burning of magnesium ribbon, what happens when magnesium ribbon is burned in air. For this you require magnesium wire, you require tongs and you require burner. Now take a piece of magnesium ribbon, you clean it by rubbing it with a sandpaper, hold it with a pair of tongs. This is a magnesium ribbon which I have taken, this is a tong, okay. Now burn it using a spirit lamp, this is a spirit lamp, and collect the ash formed in the glass. What can you see? You can see the white powder of magnesium oxide. Okay, now let us understand more in depth with the help of these experiments. Now first, we take burning of magnesium ribbon in air. So what happens when magnesium ribbon is burned in air? For that, you need magnesium ribbon, you need tongs, you need a spirit lamp and a watch glass. You take a piece of magnesium ribbon, this is a magnesium ribbon, you can see. You hold it with a tong, you burn it with using a spirit lamp and collect the ash in the watch glass. What will you see? What will you observe? This magnesium ribbon will burn with a dazzling light and white substance is formed which is magnesium oxide. You can see I have written here MgO. So this white substance is formed in this watch glass, right? So it is formed due to the reaction between magnesium and oxygen present in the air. So what do we conclude? That burning of magnesium in the presence of oxygen, that means when magnesium burns in the presence of oxygen, an oxide is formed that is called as magnesium oxide, and this process is called as chemical reaction. Now let's move to the second experiment to show the reaction between lead nitrate and potassium iodide solution. I have drawn a diagram here, okay. Take lead nitrate solution in a test tube, that is PbNO3, that is called as lead nitrate. The formula is PbNO3 twice. You add potassium iodide solution to this lead nitrate. What will you observe? We will observe an yellow precipitate. Now what is the meaning of precipitate? The meaning of precipitate is that it is an insoluble solid that emerges from a liquid solution. That is called as a precipitate. Now this lead nitrate reacts with potassium iodide to form lead iodide, which is insoluble in water and yellow in color. It is called as precipitate. So chemical reaction takes place as a result of formation of precipitate. Now the third experiment is to show the reaction between zinc granules and dilute hydrochloric acid. This is HCl is dilute hydrochloric acid and zinc granules. You take few granules in a conical flask, you add dilute HCl or dilute sulfuric acid to it, touch the conical flask and observe the change in the temperature. Okay, what will you observe? The bubbles of hydrogen gas are observed. You can see some bubbles of hydrogen gas here. What is this? Bubbles of hydrogen gas. Now the conical flask becomes hot, and this shows this process is called as exothermic. Exothermic means heat is given out. So from all these three activities, what we have done right now, what can we say? We can say that with the help of this observation, we can determine whether the chemical reaction has taken place, and when the chemical reaction has taken place, there can be a change in the state, evolution of a gas, formation of a precipitate, change in color, change in temperature. Like I gave you the example of change in state. If I take ice and keep it outside the freezing temperature, it turns into water. So solid changes into liquid. That is change in state. Change in color, I gave you about that, yellow precipitate. Evolution of gas, hydrogen gas is given out. Formation of precipitate, I gave you the example here, formation of precipitate, that is PbNO3 lead nitrate solution example. And change in temperature, when you touch this, you can feel the heat.